All right, we've got a curious one today, wouldn't you say? A photo of all people, Donald Trump, shaking hands with the head of the Longshoremen's Union. Seems a little out of place, right? It's October 2024, the Longshoremen are on strike, and this photo's making the rounds online. What gives?
Well, context is everything, right? You see, the Longshoremen's Union, the ILA, they're a big deal. They control the ports, East Coast, Gulf Coast, the whole shebang. And when they strike, well, let's just say the entire U.S. economy tends to take notice,
Hmm.
especially with the presidential election right around the corner.
So this isn't just some random photo op then. This connects to the election somehow.
It might. You also sent over that blog post by Harold Daggett, the ILA president, right?
Right, from July 2024.
In it, he talks about a meeting he had with Trump back in 2023. Apparently, Trump pledged his support to the ILA, specifically in their fight against those automated terminals they're always going on about.
Okay, so there's history there.
Yeah.
But, and maybe I'm wrong here, wasn't Trump's whole thing with unions, well, a bit of a mixed bag?
Exactly. See, that's the thing about Trump. He loved to campaign on protecting American jobs, the whole Make America Great Again thing. But his administration's actions, particularly regarding unions, told a slightly different story.
How so?
Well, for starters, they rolled back quite a few worker protections, and I'm talking significant ones.
Yeah.
This sparked some serious backlash, even from groups like the Economic Policy Institute. And they're not exactly known for being, shall we say, anti-business.
So, let me get this straight. We've got Trump seemingly buddy-buddy with the longshoremen, yet his policies weren't exactly a love letter to unions, and this all circles back to the election.
Oh,
Yeah.
because it throws a real wrench in the works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The ILA, they endorsed Biden back in 2020, but now, bam, this photo resurfaces right in the middle of a major strike. Makes you wonder if there's some wavering going on, maybe a shift in allegiance.
Especially with the Teamsters deciding to sit this election out. No Biden endorsement from them this time around.
True, although it's worth noting that the Teamsters' decision was a tad more nuanced than a flat-out no to Biden. Some local chapters actually did endorse him. It all just goes to show union endorsements, they're a tangled web, national politics mixed with local concerns, a whole lot of factors at play.
So it's not as black and white as saying all unions are pro-Biden or pro-Trump. There are levels to this.
Precisely. And while this photo, it's definitely got us intrigued, let's not jump the gun.
Yeah.
Reading too much into a single image or a handshake, it's a dangerous game, especially with someone like Trump. And, well, union endorsements, they've always got their own agendas.
So where does that leave us then? Back at square one.
Not quite. We've got questions, big ones. Is this photo a sign of things to come? Is the ILA really jumping ship? Is Trump trying to pull a fast one? Or is this just a big old coincidence? To get to the bottom of this, we need to shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the strike itself.
All right, so the strike itself. What are these longshoremen even asking for this time?
Well, they've got two big sticking points, right? Wages and that whole automation thing.
Okay, starting with wages. How much are we talking about?
The ILA, they're asking for a 61.5% increase
61.5. Over what, like their entire career?
over 6 years.
That's a lot.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. But remember what we've been dealing with these past few years. Inflation hasn't exactly been kind to anyone's wallet.
Right, so they're trying to stay ahead of it.
Exactly. And got to give them credit. Their timing's not bad. Job market's tight. Workers have options. Employers are scrambling to keep folks happy. Gives the union some leverage, you know?
Yeah, definitely. But what about this automation thing? You mentioned these automated terminals. What exactly does that even mean for a guy working on the docks?
So picture this. Cranes driving themselves.
Yeah.
Robots moving cargo, all that futuristic stuff.
Okay, but how does that affect the actual workers?
That's their whole point. They see it, and I can't say I blame them, as robots coming for their jobs.
So it's not just about today's paycheck. It's about job security 5, 10 years down the line.
Bingo. And this whole thing, this fear of robots taking over, it's not just the docks. You know, this is every industry, manufacturing, trucking, you name it. It's a big, scary question mark hanging over everyone's heads.
Right, right. So big picture stuff. But back to the docks. We've got the ILA wanting a huge pay bump and ironclad guarantees about automation. What's the other side saying?
Well, USMX, they're the ones representing the port operators they countered, offered a raise almost 50% over the same period,
Okay, so not quite as much, but still.
plus some sweeteners on benefits. But that automation clause, that's where they're digging in their heels.
Sounds like a recipe for a stalemate. This thing could drag out, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where things get interesting, especially with the election looming. See, a longshoreman strike, That's not just an inconvenience, it's a potential gut punch to the entire U.S. economy.
Really, that big of an impact?
Supply chains, my friend. Remember those? Everything gets
Yeah.
bottlenecked. Delays, shortages, prices skyrocket. We're talking everyday stuff. Food, clothes, electronics, even the materials factories need to make. Well, anything. And with an election just weeks away.
Talk about bad timing. No one wants to be the empty shelves president.
Exactly. And that's where this whole thing with Trump and Daggett, that photo we started with, that's where it gets
Really that big of an impact?
Supply chains, my friend. Remember
Yeah.
those? Everything gets bottlenecked. Delays, shortages, prices skyrocket. We're talking everyday stuff. Food, clothes, electronics, even the materials factories need to make. Well, anything. And with an election just weeks away.
Talk about bad timing. No one wants to be the empty shelves president.
Exactly. And that's where this whole thing with Trump and Daggett, that photo we started with, that's where it gets really interesting. Think about it. Biden, he campaigned on supporting unions, right?
Right.
But a long, drawn-out strike, that could hurt him. Economy takes a hit, voters get antsy. It's not a good look.
And what about Trump? Where does he fit into all of this?
Well, he's got an opportunity here, a real chance to play the I understand the working man card. Those blue-collar voters he won over in 2016,
Yeah.
they remember him siding with the little guy, or at least that's how he wants them to remember it.
So we could be looking at this strike becoming a campaign issue, impacting how people vote.
It's already got that potential, yeah. You can bet both sides will be talking about it, even if it's just coded messages, you know. How they handle this, it could sway those undecided voters, especially in the swing states.
Okay, so just to recap, because this is getting pretty complex, we've got the strike itself, obviously a huge deal, but it also ties into this bigger question about automation, the future of work, and then we sprinkle in a dash of presidential election drama, plus a side of Trump intrigue, just for kicks. So for our listeners trying to keep up, what's the most important thing to focus on here?
I think the big takeaway is this strike. It's a symptom of a much bigger shift happening. Globalization, automation, the very nature of work is changing, and we're all just trying to keep up.
And it's not just folks working on the docks, right? This affects everyone.
Exactly. Factories, trucking, even office jobs, they're all feeling the heat. The question is, what do we can do about it? How do we make sure workers are prepared for what's coming next, not left behind?
It's like we need to figure out how to use technology, all this new stuff, to our advantage, but not at the expense of people's livelihoods.
Right, find that balance. And that's going to take everyone working together. Policymakers, business leaders, the workers themselves, all got to have a seat at the table.
It's a big, messy problem, no easy answers, but it's definitely something we all need to be thinking about. So to everyone listening, keep your eyes on this strike, because it's about a lot more than just what's happening on those docks. This thing has implications for the entire economy, for the election, for the future we're all heading towards.
We've given you a lot to chew on today, that's for sure. But keep those questions in mind. What role do we want technology to play in our life? How do we make sure progress benefits everyone? These aren't just theoretical questions anymore, are they? This strike, this election, it's all part of figuring out the answers.